Norris was panicking a bit. The other one was under control, trying to do the best for him and the worst for his rival.
I felt like it was coming because I felt like Lando was frustrated. And I think it was maybe just an element of frustration that caught him out.
No, he's ripped off the front wing! The McLarens collide! Lando Norris into the wall and out of the race!
Sorry, oh my bad. Stupid for me.
I think that Piastri knows that in a battle head-to-head, I'm stronger than him.
If Lando Norris is going to win this World Championship, he's going to have to do it from pole position.
George Russell wins the Canadian Grand Prix.
I think he was as close to perfect as I've ever seen him.
I'm worried for Vasseur because I don't think that for Ferrari is the right timing to change the team principal.
He gave quite an impassioned speech almost. I think it showed how much it hurt him, what was written.
Welcome to Montreal for F1 Nation's review of the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm Tom Clarkson, and joining me in the paddock is F1's correspondent and F1TV presenter Lawrence Barretto and 2012 GP2 champion Davide Valsecchi. Well, after a race like that, there was only one place for us to come, and that was McLaren, wasn't it? Where on the balcony of the hospitality area, just watching the team pack up, Oscar Piastri's just walked past, and we're going to come on to race winner George Russell in a little while because we have to talk about the incident first of all, don't we, lads? Lawrence, let's start with you. What did you make of the clash?
Well, someone asked me heading into this weekend, when are Lando and Oscar going to come together? And I was like, well, because we haven't really come close to that. And so I said to them, actually, probably not for a while, because they've done a good job of not sharing the same piece of racetrack. And then I saw Lando hunting Oscar down, and then he didn't make the move work at the hairpin when it looked like he had the speed to do that. And then as he came up behind Oscar, and they were running down, obviously, to turn one, I was like, why is he going to go left? Don't go left. The wall is closing in. And I felt like it was coming because I felt like Lando was frustrated by what had happened when he'd missed out earlier in the lap. And I think it was maybe just an element of frustration that caught him out.
Yeah, he's misjudged the situation for sure. He was pushing in the end and he was not patient enough. And then at the exit of the chicane, when he just tried to cross the line, I think that Piastri made a fantastic move because he didn't want to let the inside line for the first corner, so he didn't want to let the left side to Norris, and so he started to move close to the wall, but slowly. So he bring him into the mistake, if you think. You know, you want to cover the line, immediately, boom, you moved. And no, he just moved slowly, thinking that maybe he's going to for it. And then at the end, there was not enough space. So I think that while Norris was rushing the situation, he was just a bit impatient. Piastri did an unbelievable move in that defense because he defends perfectly in a very clean way, but in this way you bring the rival into the mistakes because there was plenty of space on the right, but he moved so slowly, Piastri, that he let Norris think, come on, I can get the inside for the next one, and then the rest open. Stream 2 that pull you over, the incident happened. Yeah, he rushed too much, Norris. I'm disappointed for it because he was building up at that moment a great show, great recovery, was pushing. I mean, the race was entertained also thanks to him. Ended up very badly for him. Can be the move of the championship, you know, for Piastri for sure. He defended very well.
Lando Norris has just walked past us. He's in deep conversation with one of his engineers. Look, that's your opinions. Let's hear from the guys themselves now, starting with Lando.
I thought Oscar would move a bit more to the right, not to leave a gap, obviously. You know, I don't expect something to be easy from him, but I just misjudged it. You know, it was all my mistake. I take full blame, so I apologise to my whole team and to Oscar for attempting something like that.
It was the first time I think we've probably seen you guys like battling. You've got to go for it, haven't you? Because you fight for a world championship.
Yeah, but there's going for it like in a hairpin, a good fair move, and there's being stupid like I was at the end.
Hey, Oscar, obviously just seen Lando for the first time just then. Just talk me through that moment. He's obviously admitted full responsibility for it.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously haven't seen it, so I don't really know. I was defending the inside and then felt a small touch, and that's honestly all I have at the moment. So, obviously a shame for the team, and it was a bit of a difficult race apart from that. Just not the easiest of weekends.
So I think Lando was very honest, as he has been throughout his time as a championship contender, that he had made a mistake. And I think he wasn't agitated that he has been recently. He was actually quite placid. His facial expression was limited. So then he came over, he gave his interview, and as he walked away, Oscar came up and Lando backtracked over straight away as Oscar came in and just shook his hand, said, "I'm sorry." It was a really quick moment in time. Oscar didn't really, acknowledged it, but obviously they didn't have a chat while it had happened, and they are obviously going to have a chat this evening. But then Oscar came up and said, "Well, I felt a little tap," is how he described it, and the impact looked to me on telly quite significant. But he said, "I felt a little tap and I just got on with it," basically. And I think that it was nice that Lando kind of did that and made that move straight away, because clearly the question that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of races is, how does this relationship evolve from here? But I think for Lando, he was uber tough on himself, and he said that maybe to another broadcaster in the pen, he'll look at it and he'll decide, actually, maybe it wasn't my fault. He just thought in the moment that it was his fault.
Lawrence, I think it was the perfect first collision between the two McLaren drivers, because there is no stress, because it was so one-sided, this incident, that there will be no tension. It's when we get to a 50-50 later in the season, that's when it's going to kick off. So I want to start with the hairpin, because I slightly felt Piastri had even that totally under control. He invited Lando down the inside so that he could get the switch back.
Yeah, Lando was forced to do this type of maneuver. I mean, he braked very deep. You know why? Because it's a tricky corner. I mean, if you brake too early and you're not 100% in, there's the risk that your teammate starts the corner and you crash into him. So you need to brake deep to show yourself to the rival. And so then he missed a bit the apex. The other one crossed the line, forced him a bit wide at the exit. I'm loving the way driving this particular case, Piastri. Already surprised me in different times before with Verstappen. I was saying, oh, what a move at the start from Piastri. I mean, is a top level guy in a fight, body to body, car to car, head to head, and I think he played it perfectly, because you're right. He crossed immediately the line, opened the throttle a bit early, push him a bit wide on the outside curb. 100% correct, you can do it. And then fighting him on the main straight, try to don't be pushed on the inside and try to have the stream of the car in front of him, and then brake him, maintaining the position. And then, like I said before, closing the line very slowly was the move of the day for him. Because, if you close the line too early and quickly, you give the chance to Norris to go on the outside and to try the outside the first break. That is very dangerous, because if you have the outside at the first corner, you have the inside for the next one. You have the favor of the line for the next one. So in this way, you just cover all the track doing like this. From my point of view, it was very clever, brave, and under control. That was my feeling. While the other one was rushing, it was not panicking, but knowing that Antonelli is in front and give the DRS to Piastri, you are in a sort of rush, and you feel the pressure to do it immediately. If no, you lose the chance. So while Norris was panicking a bit, the other one was under control, tried to do the best for him and the worst for his rival.
And it might be the way that Oscar defended from Lando that maybe led to the fact that Lando thought he might have to try something as risky as he was trying when that gap was closing. As Davide talked about the gap closing slowly, maybe it was just that point where he was like, I can't beat this guy and I have to try something different. And we maybe saw that evolve a little bit when Lando was battling Max, that it took a couple of times before Lando finally got one over Max, and maybe he just got this frustration in that moment in time. It was like, I can't find a way. I'm quicker. I know I'm quicker. And he couldn't find a way. And maybe it just boiled over in that moment.
Lawrence, frustration is such a good word to describe Lando Norris's weekend, because he's actually been the faster of the two McLaren drivers all weekend. I think he had the pace in qualifying, but made a mess of Q3. And I think he drove a brilliant race, the way he looked after his tyres. That really long first stint was sensational. He's a tyre whisperer, and yet he's come off second best in qualifying, second best in the race. It's going to be a tough moment for him.
And then in the race, it was impressive how he could be confident with the front. I mean, did you see the hairpin? Was the only one in gaining so much ground in entrance of the corner, and was the only one that he was not suffering being in the DRS zone of the car in front of him. Was the only one. Piastri, when he caught Antonelli, was not able even to try the overtake, while Norris was all over the rivals. I mean, I was loving the attitude, and I think also the setup of his car and how he was doing a set fastest time, but then it was too much. Also a bit unlucky, because when he caught Piastri had the DRS of Antonelli. Also a bit unlucky. You know, the luck sometimes gets into the part of this situation. And when he caught his rival for the championship, was not the perfect situation for him. Was a bit unlucky also, but the mistake was clear. The mistake was clear. It can be a mistake that counts in the championship fight. Also mentally, now, I think that Piastri knows that in a battle head-to-head, I'm stronger than him. Like Verstappen thinks about everyone. I'm stronger than them. And every time in the fight, he's winning it. I'm worried a bit for Norris that this can happen, but I hope no, to be honest. I want to see more.
And now, Andrea Stella, the team principal, has gone to the media and said this is unacceptable.
We never want to see a McLaren car involved in an accident, and definitely we don't want to see the two McLarens having contact. So this situation is a situation that we know is not acceptable. At the same time, we appreciate that Lando immediately owned it, raised his hand, as you said, and apologized to the team, which for us sort of reset the situation. I'm sure he has an important learning point coming from this race. He paid a price in the championship, and we will go racing again.
You said it's not acceptable. You've spoken about your racing rules before, so how does this change things moving forward?
It doesn't change things because it's a misjudgment. It's not like the driver had an intent that was beyond the principles. It's just a misjudgment of the proximity to the car ahead. So if Lando had a different reaction, then there would have been certainly a serious conversation to have, but I think he immediately realized that he simply miscalculated, and this caused a problem for himself and for the team, and he was very close to cause a problem for Oscar.
I just wonder how that might change Lando's mentality going forward in a wheel-to-wheel, because he'll just be conscious that last time he was having a go at Oscar, he made the mistake. Will he be even more tentative?
It's going to be a tough moment for Lando. I think not just the fact that he's lost so many points. He's 22 points now behind Oscar in the championship fight. But I think, to your point, what he's now going to have to do, if he's going to find a way to wrestle control of this World Championship, is beat Oscar convincingly. And he hasn't really been able to do that consistently this year. So he's going to have to find a way, Tom, to not get into wheel-to-wheel battles and find a way to eventually blow Oscar out of the park.
You're absolutely right. If Lando Norris is going to win this World Championship, he's going to have to do it from pole position. He needs to take pole position and disappear. Because I think in a wheel-to-wheel battle, Oscar is just so good. Oscar reminds me of Lewis Hamilton in terms of his car positioning on the racetrack. He's always got it in the right place.
No.
I don't think you're going to pass Oscar.
I strongly disagree. I think he looks like Verstappen.
Oscar's like Verstappen?
Yeah, I disagree. I think that Hamilton did this type of move in a more classy way, while Piastri seems that he did it normally with consciousness, but I can see some hunger in how he plays the car. So I think that is more similar to Verstappen. This attitude in fighting and almost enjoying put the other one in a difficult condition. I think that is less classy than Hamilton, but more aggressive, like Verstappen. I have this feeling. I always thought that Verstappen was not similar to Hamilton, but similar to Schumacher, with this, aggressivity. And I think that Piastri is the most similar one in the paddock. He's different in the charisma and when you speak with him, but he's very similar in the track, believe me. I saw him handle Verstappen in a very aggressive and perfect way in Jeddah. Did you remember at the start? And Verstappen cut the corner and took the penalty. I saw something like, I force you to cut, so you're going to lose the position. I don't know. That's my feeling.
Davide, I'm going to take you back to 2007 when Lewis Hamilton was in his first season of Formula One going for his first world championship. He would absolutely have done that to Fernando Alonso, and we saw it that year. I think with maturity, Lewis Hamilton became the benchmark, but this is Oscar's first go. I actually think he's super cool, super level. I was chatting to Alex Albon as an aside about who he plays paddle with. This was last night. And he was saying that he plays with Oscar, and he said, it's interesting, when you play paddle with these racing drivers, how they play paddle is very similar to how they drive. He said, Oscar Piastri does a great shot, absolutely no emotion, does a rubbish shot into the net, absolutely no emotion. He then also said, and yet you see broken rackets from other drivers. And I said, come on, you got to tell me who that is. And he said, I'm not going to tell you who that is. But isn't it interesting, just in a sporting environment, you see these guys' true colours. This episode is sponsored by Ridge. If you're still rocking the same old battered wallet from your uni days, or even worse, that trusty old Velcro one that screams every time you open it, this message is for you. Ridge kindly sent me one of their wallets and key cases a couple of weeks ago, and I already love them. Maybe it's because I'm into Formula One, but I really like things being streamlined, and that's what the Ridge wallet does. It's so thin. Being able to just slide a couple of cards and my driving license in there is great. It fits in my pocket so much better than my old one, and it's more comfortable. I barely know I'm carrying it, and unlike leather card cases, the Ridge one is sturdy enough to hold up to 12 cards and stop them getting bent or damaged. And it's the same with the key case. I guess it's roughly the size and shape of a USB stick, and your keys just fold away neatly inside. You get instructions on how to fit them in. It was really easy. And carrying the case is way better than having my keys jangling around in my pocket and poking me in the leg. There are over 50 colours to choose from. I went for a classic slate grey. It almost looks like a bit of F1 bodywork, but maybe that's just me. Either way, it's a stylish bit of gear, and all Ridge products have a lifetime warranty, so this is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. We know how the teams and drivers are always looking for marginal gains in our sport. Small things that add up to big differences. Well, the Ridge wallet and key case are exactly that. Until you get one, you won't realise how much better it is. And for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using the code F1Nation at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use the code F1Nation and you're all set. After you purchase, they will ask where you heard about them, and please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Let's now move on to the guys that won the Grand Prix. Mercedes, George Russell P1, and then of course Kimmy Antonelli getting his first podium in P3. It was a sensational weekend for them, particularly off the back of a really tricky triple header. George Russell, first of all, Lawrence, I thought he was stunning all weekend. Would you agree?
From the moment he bounced into the TV pen on Friday, topped FP2, and I think that's the first time this year that he'd done that. And he was jovial, he was happier, chattier than I've seen him all year. And that was after FP2. And he played the game. He said, that was just full beans. I'm sure they're all going to come back at me. And then he went and nailed it in qualifying. And I don't think we tend to see a lot of emotion from George. I think he's quite good at being happy, but not really aggressive emotion. But I remember in qualifying, the air must have suffered some pain when he punched it, when he got pole, because I knew how much it meant to him. And he talked about the goosebumps afterwards, but it was that particular moment where I thought he knew how good that lap was and that he'd done a lot of the hard work for today. He came into the Grand Prix and I think he reined it back in a bit, and he wasn't quite sure how the slightly warmer conditions that we were met with here were going to affect the car. But he didn't seem worried in the way that he did last year, which made me think he was actually quite comfortable with the machine that he had, and even a couple of degrees here or there wasn't going to make a great deal of difference. And then you look at how that race panned out, and he was never under threat. There was never, Norris had that phase where he was very quick, and look, if he was in pole, maybe he would have gone on and won the race. But for who George was battling out there today, with Max never really got close to put him under pressure. Every time he did, George reacted to it. This is the kind of drive that I think we've probably seen from George for slightly lower positions, the P3s that he was racking up at the start of the year. But I think it is significant that he's done it in a race-winning format when he hasn't got a contract for next year, when his teammate Kimmy Antonelli had a strongest weekend for 3 or 4 races because the triple header wasn't very strong. I think it was a real signal of intent from George, and one that I think really helps us move him into this conversation of just how good a driver he is, and a conversation he often, personally, I think gets overlooked for, because he did nothing wrong today. In fact, he did everything right and perfect, even though racing drivers don't like to use that word. I think he was as close to perfect as I've ever seen him.
He won the race yesterday with the pole position, and today the first 6 laps, when he handled the pressure from Verstappen that he tried to overtake him with the medium compound at the beginning. I think that was very well managed. Verstappen was pushing 110% to try to jump him. He did it perfectly. I always loved Russell. I told you in the past that it was underestimated in England, right? I always kept telling you. I think he's strong in the head, this man, and I'm very happy for him and for his team.
Why do you think he's not appreciated? Why do you think he's underestimated?
His behavior outside the car is always, I don't know, he's a bit very good boy, very gentleman, but we know that the driver inside the truck, they are not gentlemen, and they are the opposite. I don't know, probably it's for this reason, and probably because in England everyone was loving Hamilton and he was his teammate.
Yeah, and he outperformed. He outperformed Hamilton, particularly last year.
Last year was impressive. And there is a quality also that makes him an interesting guy, and probably one of the favorite if he has the right car to fight for the championship. In quali, is bloody competitive.
Yeah, he was Mr. Saturday when he was at Williams, wasn't he?
Do you remember? And then in wet, could pull out some great performance. In quali is impressive. And I think is able also, if he's been beaten once by his teammate, is able to bounce back the next weekend immediately. That's a quality, yeah?
If he had a championship challenging car, do you think he could put together a championship challenge? And the reason I ask that is that we've seen moments from George Russell. We've seen brilliant moments, of which this Canadian Grand Prix weekend is definitely one. In my opinion, his strongest weekend in Formula One to date. But only moments. We've seen a lot of inconsistency. Not all his fault, obviously, because he hasn't had the equipment at his disposal. Do you think if he had the equipment, he's got what it takes?
When? So tell me when this year. This year, only Miami was not competitive as his teammate, and they ended up being in a good position at the end. But tell me when. In the race in Imola, but the team was nowhere. Also Antonelli was not there on the race pace there. I mean, I know that in the past was up and down a bit, but there's no sign this year that he's been inconsistent. I think that every time in quali is one of the men that pull out the performance and get the third position. Is more often up there than Leclerc, that they consider one of the best one in quali. And I think that this year many times surprised everyone having his last lap under the checker Fred with maximum pressure in quali, and he put loud the performance. And I have this imagine, Russell and Norris fighting each other for the Formula 2 championship. I have this imagine that Norris was flying some of the day while Russell was always bam, bam, bam. I remember one race in Hungary. First part of the race it was raining. I think that Norris was running 2 seconds quicker than everyone else. At the end of the race, Russell won it. I have this imagine that is rock solid Russell, and I have it in mind, and I think he's going to win championship in his future.
And what I think we have seen this year, he's always been quick over one lap. I think we've seen the race pace improve this year. I think the new Pirelli compounds we've seen this year have helped George on a Sunday, but he's definitely become more consistent over 52, 58 laps.
About the race pace, I have some doubt. Because this year is much better than Antonelli in qualifying, much better. Every time 3 or 4 tests, every time, out of Miami. But in some of the races, Antonelli today was running the same. Antonelli in Miami was quicker than him. Antonelli in the first race under wet in Australia. And the last few laps, it was quicker than him. You mentioned race pace in the past maybe was the key. He learned how to handle the Pirelli. Okay, it's my only question. Beside Verstappen in the race pace, how is going to be? Because Antonelli with him is closer in the race than in quali. That's the stats. That's the result.
I think we need to wait and see until George has got a car where he can fight regularly to know for sure whether or not he has got what it takes. Because I think we've seen with Lando, he can have those complete weekends, can't he? Like Australia at the start of the year, Zandvoort last year, Monaco this year. It's one thing to put it together in one weekend like George has done here, but we haven't seen him do that consistently. But that's a lot of that is down to the fact he hasn't got the car this year to do that. I think that he really leveled up when he got a lot of confidence from beating Lewis Hamilton effectively over their time together. I think he put a lot of pressure on himself to make sure he did what he could to be ahead of Kimmy Antonelli, who Mercedes have basically thrown everything behind. And I think that has helped him level up. That was key to his consistency here. But Davide's kind of hinted at this. I kind of just feel like he's an Alan Prost. He'll always drive to the level that he needs to win or do the best job that he can at that time without having to maybe go that extra mile. I remember talking to someone at Williams and they were like, I never know how good that 1993 car was because Alan just pushed to the level that he needed to win, and I wonder whether George is kind of very similar in character to that. And it won't be until he's in a spot that Mercedes give him a car, that maybe it's him against Kimi Antonelli and they're the best car and we're going up against it, that we can really genuinely answer that question. But I think we are seeing plenty of signs from him that he can be in that conversation. And I think I agree with both of you that I think he can be world champion. But it all depends on the circumstances, isn't it? I still think that Lando can be world champion. It's just that he's got Oscar Piastri, who's potentially one of the greatest drivers of the generation, the way he's driving at the minute.
And when you see George put a weekend together like the one here in Montreal, it's mad to think that he doesn't have a contract for next year.
Oh, yeah. It's mental. I mean, just saying that out loud doesn't make any sense.
And tell me why? Why he has no contract?
He wants to stay at Mercedes. I think Toto Wolff is just still playing the Max Verstappen card, still. But I think he's realising that that's slipping away. And I think we'll see a George Russell contract soon, probably.
Yeah, I think...
Particularly if he keeps banging in performances like this.
Yeah, I'm going to say a bit of body language changed a little bit with Toto a couple of weeks ago. There's a little bit more of a glint in his eye, a bit of a smirk when you talk to him about George and that contract. And it does feel like it's close. I think to your point, Tom, I do think he wanted to leave the door open as long as he possibly could in case he could get Max. But it does feel like that door's almost shut, if not shut already. And I think it's now just a matter of time until we see George commit. Because I think as strong as Kimmy Antonelli can be, if you've got George Russell operating at that level, why on earth do you not want a George Russell, Kimmy Antonelli lineup? It doesn't make any sense, does it? So I feel like while he maybe wasn't in a rush early doors, because essentially where was George going to go? That's the reality of it. Toto kind of had the upper hand there in terms of that. So I think we will eventually see it, probably sooner rather than later.
And what about Kimmy Antonelli? It's a huge moment. The third youngest podium finisher in Formula One, Kimmy's first podium in his 10th race.
I know that he ended up third in his teammate one, but in the race pace was there. So, do we remember the first season of Piastri? Struggling a bit in quali, and then sometimes the performance in the race, you were saying, come on, he's fast. Come on, he's good. I don't know. I don't want to be too positive, because, doesn't bring any luck. But in some of this part of this season, I can feel the first season of Piastri. And so consider how strong he became Piastri with experience, and how important was the experience to give him the speed in quali to try to put all together to be the fastest. I think that I'm incredibly optimistic, and he's doing a fantastic job. Thanks to Mercedes, his team principal, that he risked it with him and was completely right. Thanks of the environment, maintaining the expectation very low, give him confidence and time instead of putting pressure. Thanks to everything, if you choose the right driver with the right talent and you give him confidence and time, you can have great result. I don't know why other team principals, they are not following the line of Toto Wolff. That probably is the best on that.
Well, there aren't that many Kimmy Antonellis out there.
Probably.
I thought he was very cool and calm when Piastri was in his DRS zone. There was no hint of panic, was there? Inch perfect. It was a really strong result, and it's crazy to think that he's now flying back to Europe because on Tuesday morning he has his final school exams in Italy. He's going to be in school on Tuesday this week with his classmates, having just got a podium in the Canadian Grand Prix.
I can't see the teacher give him a bad... come on, how is possible?
A stars all round.
So this man mentally is one of the best in the planet. You cannot give him 5 in English. Come on. Anyway, his race today was very mature. And the last part of the race, he handled it without no panic at all. And it's a good quality when you have one of the most important chances of your career, and you pull out probably one of the best races in Formula 1 of your career the day that it counts more. I think that is the attitude that only the strong driver has. So, well done.
What really impressed me about the way Kimi Antonelli handled this weekend is that he had an awful triple header. Like, it was dreadful. And after that start of the season where we were getting really encouraged, nothing was going right for him. He kind of admitted in Imola, he kind of let the occasion get to him. He took on too many media commitments. It affected the way he drove. And it was tough. And I remember talking to him at the end of that triple header, and he was really quite down. He's come here, complete reset. Like, he was the Kimmy Antonelli for Australia when I saw him here on a Thursday in Canada, in terms of just the happy-go-lucky kind of kid. And I think that kind of atmosphere that Mercedes have fostered, the Toto Wolff, arm around you, kind of making sure you're not putting too much pressure, has enabled him to not make any mistakes twice. And I think he's just such a fast learner. Like, he doesn't seem to ever kind of get into a spiral of misery. He just kind of goes, okay, well, that's happened, I need to be better. And he just cracks on with it. And I think that is an incredible skill that is going to help him probably be on the pace a little bit quicker, actually, than Oscar was in that first year. Because I'm already seeing so much development from Kimmy, so much quicker, around 10.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. Trust isn't just earned, it's demanded. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit, or a seasoned security professional scaling your GRC program, proving your commitment to security has never been more critical or more complex. And that's why businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance for in-demand frameworks like SOC 2, ISO 27001, and the latest European frameworks like the EU AI Act and DORA. And with automation and AI throughout the platform, you can proactively manage vendor risk and complete security questionnaires up to 5 times faster. Vanta not only saves you time, it can also save you money. A new IDC white paper found that Vanta customers achieve $535,000 per year in benefits, and the platform pays for itself in just 3 months. So join over 10,000 global companies like Flow Health, Synthesia, and Alica Bank who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. And for a limited time, listeners get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/nation. That's vanta.com/nation for $1,000 off.
When you look in the mirror, you see this old school cowboy.
From the director of Top Gun Maverick.
Why did Sonny Hayes come back to F1?
Starring Brad Pitt.
Ever seen a miracle?
Not yet. On June 27th.
How do you think I'd feel if you die on the track?
3 laps. 3 laps.
of a lifetime.
There's more to come from our review of the Canadian Grand Prix in a moment. And once we're done, why not check out F1's other official podcasts? My guest this week on F1 Beyond the Grid is Racing Bulls driver Isaac Hadjar, who tells me how he bounced back from that challenging debut in Melbourne. That's available on Wednesday, and you can watch our chat on the official F1 YouTube channel. And this week's F1 Explains is all about how to plan your trip to a Grand Prix. Just search for F1 Beyond the Grid and F1 Explains on your podcast app. What about Ferrari? There's a huge Italian community here in Montreal, more than 1 million Italians living locally. There's a huge level of support for the team here. But it was another underwhelming weekend, wasn't it, Lawrence?
It was one that might have been, again, I think Charles knew from that lap just before he crashed in FP1 just how good that car was, and it put him on the back foot. He said yesterday he could have been on pole. That's an extraordinary thing for him to be saying and then not being able to do it. Then he's come into this race, and I think both him and Lewis admit they just don't have the race pace there. Lewis was complaining about the brakes again. He said for the first time in his career he's having brakes. He doesn't understand why. You've got Charles there kind of getting frustrated with his team again, with the way that the strategy plays out, even though, you know, after the race he said, well, obviously they've got more information than me. It was just another weekend where it just feels like it's just not going to happen for them this year. And that kind of stress and that pain and that misery that Charles feels, that you see quite heavily in the TV pad actually when he talks in the car, it's just inching up. It's just getting higher and higher and higher. And it was another weekend where Mercedes bounced back in a great way. And, you know, McLaren did damage limitation and Max Verstappen found a way. And Ferrari are kind of just, you know, fifth, like you said, 5th and 6th, and not really having made any progress, well, backwards or forwards, really.
A positive is that it went better than it did last year when neither driver was in Q3. But what doesn't help the team, and Davide, I'd love to bring you in on this, is there was so much noise coming into this weekend after the Italian media had their first shot at Fred Vasseur, team principal. What did you make of the stories that were being written, and what does it mean for Fred Vasseur?
For sure they cannot be created from nothing. Because if different newspapers has written the same story, someone has told something to someone, for sure. So, for sure it's not all invented. And I'm worried for Vasseur because I don't think that for Ferrari is the right timing to change the team principal. I think it's incredibly wrong having these rumors about changing your team principal in the middle of this season while the project for the next car with the new regulation is already started and you are in the middle of that one. I think it's crazy thinking to replace the team principal. So a second one, I cannot understand why the driver they keep complaining on the radio. Leclerc this weekend was flying, right? He had 7 or 8 laps in free practice 1. He was top of the board. Then he crashed, missed the second session for his fault. Then he got in free practice 3. He was second. Then he got in quali. He made the mistake in the last try. He complained about Hadjar that was far away in front. Dirty hair, Hadjar, I don't know, was far away. We can say that the frustration because it was competitive. Quickest in the first sector. Then he started the race, and he kept complaining with the radio about the strategy. How is possible? I mean, why you keep complaining? In a weekend where you can score victory or you can stay on podium, your weekend is full of mistakes? It's not the right time to complain. It's the right time to drive and say sorry, and then it could be better, and we'll win next weekend. I cannot understand it. Why the team take this situation? I cannot understand why someone is not saying, shut up and drive, please. You are one of the best in the world, just drive.
Culture is such an important thing in these race teams, and that suggests a blame culture. But I think it just reflects everything that's going on at Ferrari and the criticism that Vasseur faced coming into this weekend. He spoke in the press conference on Friday. This is Fred Vasseur's reaction to all of the rumours about his future going on in Italy at the moment.
First, I have to stay calm because I will have to finish to the steward. It's some Italian media, it's not all the Italian media. It's not about myself, I think, because this I can manage. It's more about the people of the team. To throw their name like this, I think it's just disrespectful for them, for the family. I don't know the target. Perhaps it's to give shit to the team, but in this case, I don't see the point. Perhaps it's for them the only way to exist. This is probably more the reason, but it's really hurting the team. At one stage, it's a lack of focus. When you are fighting for the championship, every single details make the difference. If it's their target to put the team in this situation, they reach their goal. It's not like this that we'll be able to win a championship, and at least not with this kind of journalist around us.
I think what I really took from that was how punchy he was, because I think it showed how much it hurt him, what was written. I think he'd spent a lot of time since he's taken over as team boss at Ferrari to try and improve that culture at the team, to try and get rid of the blame culture. I think he's done a really good job of trying to protect, be a shield to the staff, and I think then he's seen those stories in the Italian media and he's worried for his people. He's worried for the instability that can create, that he's worked so hard to try and eradicate from the team. And I think he felt like he was making progress, and I honestly think if you go and talk to people who work at Ferrari up and down the ladder, they will tell you they enjoy working for Fred. I do think he has improved that side of things. Obviously, the performance of the team this year is not as good as last year. And obviously, as Ferrari team principal, that brings double the amount of pressure. But I think it was interesting that normally when rumours happen, Fred maybe makes a joke of it, doesn't entertain it, gives it short shrift. This time, he gave quite an impassioned speech almost as to how frustrated it was. And I think that gives a real insight into how much it's irritated him, how much maybe he's feeling the pressure now at Ferrari.
This was a personal dig as well, and I think it's the first time it had happened. I've spoken to a lot of people up and down this paddock, Italians, about what this all means, and everyone is agreed that Fred Vasseur is not about to lose his job, but what this does show is that the protective shield is now gone.
When there was Binotto, was more or less the same, Mid of the season, they start to say Binotto is going to be replaced at the end of the season. A lot of voices, a lot of strategy was not right, Binotto fault, and then he lose the job at the end. I mean, yeah, I agree that I hope that is not going to happen. But when Binotto was replaced, more or less was similar. And the car was even faster at that moment.
Lewis Hamilton came out in support of Fred because, let's face it, Fred was one of the driving forces into bringing Hamilton to the team this year.
Yeah, both of the drivers, they support him. Both of the drivers. And I believe them. Leclerc won with Vasseur in the lower category. Hamilton as well, and as his personal friend. I believe them. Why you keep complaining on the radio with your engineer? If you want to stay in this team, if you want to win with Ferrari, why Hamilton was so critical with his engineer during all the season long? So I believe them. But the attitude that they are showing me during the race is a lack of confidence in your team boss. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Because this weekend I think that Ferrari deserved more. The result doesn't happen, and was an important weekend for Vasseur. We believe in him. We support him. Come on, at least don't complain. But I'm Italian. I get frustrated like Leclerc or even more, so sorry for my words.
As you say, Davide, this would be a ridiculous time to replace any team principal in the pit lane with everything that's going on with these huge regulation changes that are coming for 26. But you never know with Ferrari, do you? That's the point. Well, guys, it's been awesome to have you both on the show. Thank you very much for your time. We're going to end it the traditional way and talk about our driver of the day. Kimmy Antonelli, first podium, won it on the telly. Who's your driver of the day, Lawrence?
I think it's a battle between two, and it's the two Mercedes drivers. I think I'm going to give it to George just because of the nature of the complete weekend that he's had. I think he was on it from the very beginning in Friday practice. I think he was sensational to get that lap in qualifying. And I think the way he handled this race today was outstanding. And I think it's really drawn a line in the sand for multiple reasons. It's done well for his future and nailing better terms in his contract, I'm sure, with Mercedes.
Another 0.
Exactly that. I think it's done wonders for where he stands in the kind of pecking order of drivers now. I think he's shown that, yep, Kimmy's on the podium, but I got the win today, and, I can do it when the car is strong. I think that will do him well. And I also think in his standing among other drivers in the field, it's done him the world of good, because I think we've already been talking about him winning world championships and talking about how good he is, and that is exactly what he will have hoped this kind of drive did. So it's got to be George for me. It's got to be George.
Do you know what? And for everyone who loves the beef between George and Max Verstappen, I'm just going to burst that little balloon by saying in the press conference after the race, before the cameras were turned on, they were chatting like old mates, sharing photos on their phones and all sorts. So there you go. Whatever's gone on between those two, end of last year and last time out in Spain, it feels like all is good in the hood. Now, Davide, who is your driver of the day?
I want to say Antonelli, third youngest driver to get a podium position. So I think that we need to give him the credit to him. But let me tell you, Alonso is my dream driver. I dream to have this quality. I dream to have this charisma. Come on, take it easy in turn 3 and turn 13. It's not testing. I'm racing. 7th. His teammate miles away. Yeah. 42 years old. Come on. That's motorsport. And that is my legend, personal legend of the day, Alonso. That's it. All a driver wants to have. This charisma and this attitude and this performance.
That's brilliant. It does feel like he's been rejuvenated since the Aston Martin had its upgrades brought back in Imola. I feel we've seen a really feisty Fernando again.
In the last few races, he's always in the top 10 in quali.
Yep.
And in the last 2, and he was very unlucky with some technical issue, even though in the last 4 or 5 races, always there. Agree with you.
And much punchier in the TV pen, happier, much more willing to talk. No longer kind of talking about next year. Do you remember very early in the season he was like, oh, we should probably be turning our attention to 2026. There's none of that now. This is all about, I've got a car that I can go out and remind everyone that, to Davide's point, he's 42 years old and he's still got it. And I think now it's given him the opportunity to show and remind him. And that's what Fernando Alonso's about, right? He's about showing everyone consistently that he is one of the greatest drivers there's ever been.
And what did you make of the rumours going around this weekend that Fernando might go to Alpine? I think he was just probably spotted chatting to his manager, Flavio Briatore. But is there any credence to that?
I mean, stranger things have happened, right? I haven't heard anything to say that, but obviously he and Flavio go way back. They've got a lot of history together. But if you can find a way with Aston Martin, he came there, he believes in the project, he's got a long-term deal to be there for an ambassador for a long time. It would be quite a lot, I think, to maybe throw that all away to go to Alpine. But
well, I think brilliant suggestions from both of you, Russell, Antonelli, Alonso. I'm going to throw another name in the mix because we haven't talked about him on the pod so far, and that is Nico Hülkenberg. Brilliant last time out in Spain. He then comes here, qualifies 11th, finishes P8. The car is clearly a step forward since they introduced the new floor last time out. And Hülkenberg, a bit like Alonso, is absolutely flying.
I told him just before on the live show, how unfair is on the sportive side that this man has no podium in his career in Formula One. This is unfair. It's unacceptable and unbelievable for me. I'm sorry, but I think that a lot of guys from home that are listening to your podcast are thinking, how is possible that this man that is 15 or 16 years that has been in Formula One is so strong? Until now, he never got a podium. They told me he had some chances and he threw it away, but he deserved for sure one podium before ending his career in Formula One. Last race was 5th. He overtook Hamilton in the last few laps, Hamilton with Ferrari. Come on, unbelievable, Hülkenberg. I told him, I was amazed about his race and about his performance in the last few days. Well done.
Well, guys, thank you both very much for your time. It's been great to chat it all through. I know, Lawrence, you've got a busy week coming up. You're not going straight back to Europe, are you?
No, I'm just popping over to New York, Tom.
What are you doing in New York?
Just for the world premiere of the F1 movie. So I'll be on the red carpet in
That'll be awesome.
the car, so that'll be cool, and the drivers are heading over there as well. So what a great extension to this Canadian Grand Prix weekend for me.
And Davide, what's next for you?
See you in Austria, and I hope that is going to be entertaining as here in Canada. That was
Brilliant.
a good race, great weekend, fantastic track, we need to remember, fantastic circuit.
Guys, thanks so much.
Ciao, grazie mille.
Thank you.
Now, for more reaction and analysis from Canada, please go to f1.com or the official F1 app, and you can watch the highlights on the official F1 YouTube channel. And don't forget that the F1 movie starring Brad Pitt is out in cinemas this month. Go to f1themovie.com to book your tickets now. And we will, of course, be back next Monday with our preview of the next race, the Austrian Grand Prix. Thanks very much for listening. F1 Nation is produced by Formula One and Audioboom Studios.